Hey, so today is the end or the last day of this month, the month of May, and I want to end the month with the two videos, and these are a follow-up of the previous video that I did on Rwanda. Now today I want to focus on a latest expose, a documentary by a group of journalists based in Europe that cover stories mostly from authoritarian regimes, stories that many journalists give up their lives trying to cover. Now the latest story is called Soldiers Fallen in Silence. It is a story of how there have been more than 2,000 cases of dead soldiers being brought to Rwanda, in caskets, and who died in a war in Congo that Paul Kagame keeps denying. And the journalist in this expose, his name is Baker, or rather, let me just say, he's called Samuel Baker Biasi. He's not a Hutu, because most of the time when you bring these kind of stories, you are labeled as FDLR member. They say if you are not FDLR member, they also say you are a Hutu. And they even start going ahead to say that maybe you even participated in the genocide in 1994, right? And that's why you are opposing the regime in Rwanda. And then even when you ask them to show you evidence, or rather to provide the people they are calling FDLR, they show you guys who are 20, 22 years old, people who are born 10 years, 7 years after the genocide happened. So how can you be born after something that happened and be accused of the same? So they start saying, okay, you know what, even if you are not born at the time, you are a Hutu. So then you ask them, there are Hutus in Congo, more than 10 million Hutus, indigenous members living in Congo. They've never been to Rwanda. There are close to 4 million, more than 4 million Hutus in Tanzania. They call themselves the Baha people. Others actually call themselves the Hutu. All right, are those the same? Are you accusing those ones also of being behind the genocide? There are 3 million Hutus in Uganda. Ask people from Uganda, they tell you. In the region of Kisoro there, that is the southwestern Uganda, they are Hutus, indigenous. They've never crossed the border to Rwanda. Are they members? Did they participate? They start telling you, no, as long as you're a Hutu, you committed the genocide. So that's the regime in Rwanda. They've made it that every Hutu all over the world, Hutus in Congo, in Kenya, in Cameroon, in Zambia, they're saying they're all guilty. So it's nonsense. And now, today we have journalists from the Tutsi community also reporting the same things. And now we don't know what they are going to call them, because every time a journalist reports the truth, but he happens not to be a Tutsi, they call him a genocider, or they call him FDLR. But if you are a Tutsi, like now our guy Samuel Biasi, I don't know what they are going to call him. Anyway, he goes ahead to say that he investigated more than 2,000 cases of dead soldiers being brought from Congo. Soldiers who died, and their families were told not to issue interviews to the media. Their families were told not to even talk to anyone about it. They were just told they died in the line of duty, but they were not given further explanation as to where they were when they died. Because in Rwanda, the story is that Rwanda is not at war, but every day dead soldiers are being brought to this airport called, it's a Rwandan, it's next to the Kigali International Airport. It's the military airport called Kanombe Airport. It's used by the military. There are helicopters and cargo planes bringing dead soldiers there, and the officers are being buried on the what they call the Kanombe military cemetery, which I hear is very full. As a matter of fact, I looked on Google Earth and typed Kanombe, and it is full. So the expose also talks about a journalist called Ntwari, or Ntwari, whatever. And Ntwari actually spoke good French and Swahili in the documentary he was working on before he was basically abducted by Rwandan police and then later on killed. His name was John Ntwari or Nwari or whatever, and he was killed because of that investigation covering the truth of what is happening to Rwandan troops who are fighting in Congo. Thousands of them. So I'm going to show you that video, a snippet of it, and then after that I'm also going to show you a story that was revealed in a podcast by real Rwandans, children who survived the 1994 genocide, telling the truth which contradicts the truth that we know from this Rwandan propaganda. And they are even going ahead to talk about why Rwanda is in Congo and why they are doing what they do there, right? So come with me as I show you that.
On est directement ciblé. On ne sait pas ce qui va nous arriver, mais on sait qu'un jour, quelque chose va nous surprendre.
In Rwanda, journalists covering sensitive issues regularly report being threatened and systematically silenced. Some critics even disappear or die in suspicious circumstances. This was the case for John Williams Ntwali, an investigative journalist covering striking inequalities in the country, human rights abuses, and even covert military operations. He died in what was officially said to be a car accident in Kigali. At Forbidden Stories, along with our media partners from the Rwanda Classified Project, we investigated his death and pursued his work. Samuel Baker, one of the last journalists to collaborate with Ntwali, fled the country and joined our investigation.
The risk is high, but again, doing journalism is more of a job, is a calling to many journalists.
A few months before Ntwali's death, both reporters traveled to eastern DRC to investigate the murky depths of Rwandan soldiers there. In fact, since the Tutsi genocide ended 30 years ago, eastern DRC has seen a flurry of armed conflicts fueled by the mass exodus of hundreds of thousands of Hutus and the region's coveted mineral resources. Today, rebel armed groups clash with the Congolese army, notably the M23, known for their violent war crimes. Officially, Rwanda denies involvement in the conflict, yet several UN reports have confirmed the presence of several thousand Rwandan soldiers there. They are either deployed directly under the Rwandan army, the RDF, or have joined the M23 troops. Local researchers who infiltrated the rebel group provided us with videos of Rwandans fighting alongside M23. Some of the commanders of these troops, who once held high-ranking positions within the Rwandan army and even served in UN peacekeeping missions, later participated in a conflict that UN forces are striving to resolve. For former members of Kagame's administration, who are now in exile, the reason for their presence in the DRC is clear.
He's obsessed with controlling the Kivu, the Eastern DRC, for reasons we all know, the minerals, the money.
You've been to Kigali recently. You see how beautiful it is, how clean it is, all those skyscrapers that you see there. All those resources are not internally generated from Rwanda.
We looked into the stories of several Rwandan soldiers sent to fight in the DRC, where some of them die anonymously. We identified them through social media posts documenting their passing. We were able to determine that the majority of the 13 soldiers identified lost their lives in the DRC between 2022 and 2023. Some of their families were merely told they died in service and were instructed not to discuss the matter publicly.
Speaking out, this is what they will call being an enemy of the state, which is totally wrong. And people want to normalize this. No, not me. And I think we need to stand up and understand our rights and defend them.
Humanitarian organizations estimate that there are about 1 million displaced people in North Kivu. Internationally, the issue is drawing significant attention. The United States and France have recently increased their diplomatic efforts to mediate the conflict, yet no concrete measures have been taken.
The European countries, they say, the Eastern Congo is a problem, and we understand that. But Northern Mozambique is really positive what they're doing in providing support, especially from the French side, support to Total and their business interests there. So we have to take that into consideration. They think and present themselves as presenting a siloed approach where we'll condemn Rwanda here, but we'll encourage Rwanda there. And that's just not, it's playing into the Rwandans' hands. I mean, the EU is continuing to make deals with Rwanda. The EU is continuing to promote Rwanda. And that's fine, but they're not doing it at the same time as actually holding Rwanda publicly accountable for the abuse that M23 is committing or the RDF is committing in Eastern Congo.